What a beautiful day, beautiful evening, beautiful life, all right? Listen, so I was going to go off on the second step and, go one by one, 1 through 12, and explain everything to you from my life, my experience, my strength, my hope, right? But a couple people have been asking me, like, do I have some sort of testimony or can I go over my life experience with them and like where I've been? And like, these are doctors and stuff like that, people that want to know this stuff so, they can maybe help their clients. So I'm going to give my testimony instead today. And it all starts with taking that first sip of alcohol when I cut school, right? Listen, I was always thinking outside the box since I was younger, right? And I was an athlete, ninth grade honor roll, 10th grade summer school, right? That little switchover is where like weed started, okay? So ninth grade, 3 sports, 10th grade summer school. And something like, inside of me was like missing. And you know what? People that can go out here and like debate and say, I'm making that choice. You're weak, you're this, you're that, or depression is not real. Listen, people saying depression is not real never went through depression. They've never seen a family member, a close family member going through depression. Okay? I'm okay. I'm happy most of the time. I see close friends depressed. I see it in my everyday life, and I've experienced it at some point. And it started with that first sip of alcohol. It started with that first sip of alcohol that I was off and running. And I had no idea. I had no idea that I had any type of problem. And I was trying to think about it earlier of like when the actual moment was where I made the switch over to like start morning drinking. And like once I started drinking in the morning, that's when like things were just, it was over. It was over for me because now I'm at a point where my body needs alcohol 24 hours a day. And, I never knew I had a problem. Every day I was finding a way. I was like 20 years old. I was finding a way to get my alcohol every single day. And, all the other stuff came along with that. That was around the time when like perks were coming out and the blues and like, one thing led to another. Same way it led most of like the people down that same road. Like a lot of people went that route, the perks, the blues, the dope. It was just cheaper because the habit got worse. So when I think when I made that switch over was actually when I started drinking at work, and I was working for somebody else, and it actually like started like my boss was also at that time, like he was in AA. He had like 15 years clean, great guy, understanding. So it kind of was acceptable because he understood, and he always used to tell me like, hey, why don't you come to a NA meeting with me tonight? And I'm like, I'll go Friday. And he's like, you never know what can happen during that time. You could hurt somebody. You can unlimited possibilities. And like, I didn't understand that at the time because I didn't want to hear it, right? You don't want to hear it. So I remember that I started drinking lunchtime, and like every lunch break I had to like, I'd go right to the liquor store, I get like 4 shots, and like, boom, my afternoon was great. It was amazing. And I remember walking to work with a book bag on, and I had like 12 natty ices in there. And like, that was the most disgusting beer, but you get a 12 pack for like $4. And I remember going into like the porta-john, the bathroom, during like whenever I got an opportunity to, and I bring 2 beers in there with me, I chug them, I'd step on them, and I push them underneath the porta-john. And like at that point now I'm drinking like beer, and that's kind of a hard thing to do on a job site is like pull out a beer and drink it, right? So I started thinking like, all right, what's easier? So I started like bringing bottles of vodka to work so I could conceal it, right? And like now everybody used to know like it was a joke. I didn't go anywhere without my bottle. I went to bars every night. I didn't spend $1. I'd go in the bathroom and drink. I had it tucked right into my waistline, right? So I remember the first time I brought a bottle of vodka to work. I was at a job site at like 10 houses we were doing for somebody. And as soon as I like got to the job, the builder, project manager, the whole entire place was like, hey, get in my truck. Come on, we got to go pick up this. Now, I just pounded like 6 shots of vodka. It's like 7 in the morning. And I remember like that was not a good look for me. And like it was all downhill from there. So now I'm drinking and I'm only working so I can get money for alcohol. Like that's it. That's all I cared about. I cared about having enough money for alcohol. I remember one time I didn't show up to work the entire week. I showed up at lunch break. The guys all went to lunch. They came back at like 1 o'clock on a Friday, and I had my tool belt on working to get those 3 hours so I can get 3 hours pay so I can go drink. And that's how it was. But eventually it just got to a point where I was just like unemployable. Like I could not function without drinking. So there was no bedtimes, there was no nothing, okay? My life had become so unmanageable. So unmanageable where I couldn't work, I was getting arrested, I was in jail, I was just every day was something new with me, every single day. And you know what? I was living with my parents at the time, and like those poor people, like thank God for them, they saved my life. They've always been there for me, never gave up on me. Okay, that's a debate between tough love. We'll get to that on a different day. So my poor parents, you know, like knocks on the door, 1 a.m, it's the police, phone calls from jail. You know, the one phone call my parents got, I was in jail. I was in jail at 2 a.m. I was in rehab. They think I got 6 months sober, and they're getting a phone call at like 2 o'clock in the morning to come pick me up from jail. Can you imagine what that does to a family, to a parent, to any, you know, it was at the point where they had enough. Like my brothers both moved out. My sister, I took like everything she owned. I was not the person who I am today. And that's not who I was then. I was taken over by my addiction and using against my will. And like, I wanted to stop. I tried to stop on my own. I would like just maybe like smoke a little bit and like lay around, like, so that would help with the withdrawal a little bit. But like after like 3 days, I just couldn't take it anymore. And eventually like my life spiraled so bad, out of control. And I ended up in a 6-month program and lived in like really horrible conditions in the Salvation Army. And I mean, that place actually saved my life because I learned a lot of things, okay? I learned a lot of like different kinds of music about God. I still listen to this day. And I learned a lot of stuff about that place and God. So when I got into like my program, you get the second step, like power greater than yourself can restore you to sanity, all that stuff. Like I had already believed in God, like growing up. I went to CCD, got baptized, confirmation, all that stuff. Like, but I didn't believe in God anymore. And when I went to the Salvation Army, that restored my faith in God. And I did put together some time in there, and I ended up relapsing while I was in there. And when I got out of there, it was like the worst run of my life, like absolutely worst run of my life. In the 3 months from, I think it was April 10th to July 16th is when I like got clean, 2011. So during that time, it was the absolute worst run of my life, the worst. Like my cousin had passed, and my entire family was absolutely devastated. Like, it was the worst thing that's ever happened, you know? Or I think she was 20, sorry, 19, 20 years old. I don't remember the exact age, but like our family was torn apart. And I remember my mom saying to me, like, you are not going to your cousin's funeral like that, or you're not going to your cousin's wake like that. And like, drunk, and I'm like cursing her out, like, you're not going to tell me where I'm going to go and what I'm going to do. My cousin's funeral, yeah. Disaster. 1 month to the day after she died and all the funerals and everything, I went to rehab again. Rock bottom, loneliest place in the world, okay? And like I said in previous videos, I didn't care if I ever talked to another soul again. If I had my alcohol, my cigarettes, and whatever else came along with that, right? Didn't care if I ever talked to another soul again. I didn't. You know, my plan when I went to rehab the last time, there's a river between like by my house and to like New Brunswick, okay? So my plan when I got to rehab was when I got out, I was gonna go, I knew I was gonna lose my license in a few months. My plan was I'm gonna work for like 2 weeks, okay? And I'm gonna get like gallons and gallons of that like $8 vodka, right? And that would last me like throughout my suspension of not having a driver's license for 7 months. And then I'm thinking, like, how am I going to get to the liquor store when that runs out? And the insanity is telling me to jump in a river, swim across a river to get to Easton Ave to go get alcohol. It's the insanity of this disease. And somebody can come on here and say, like, you know, you're weak. You made these decisions. Okay, well, guess what? There is millions and millions and millions of people that are weak making these decisions. This shit is real. I've been through it. I lived it. And I'm telling you, this shit is real. So you want to judge people and say, you're making that decision, or depression's not real, or you're not a man, or you're not this, or some people around here telling you, like, you're not a man. You have to run 47 miles with broken legs. That makes you a man. You're not allowed to be happy. That makes you a man. I'll tell you what. Manliest man right here. Builds houses with these hands, okay? Manliest man. Taking care of your responsibilities, taking care of the people you love. That's what makes you a man. And guess what? You can be happy in the process also. So, went to rehab the last time, and I think my cousin spirits, I mean, nobody knows the exact like facts, details of what happens like when you're dead and all that stuff, but there's no coincidence that 1 month after my cousin had passed, I had went to rehab, and something just, it stuck with me. I didn't go to rehab to get clean. I did not go there last time. I was just out of options. Okay, and people do that all the time. They would go to rehab because they're out of options. Something happened in there. I don't know. Something to do with my cousin, something to do with just everything. I don't know. But I listened to what they told me in there, gave me suggestions like, okay, you do these suggestions, you'll be all right. And you know what? It was that simple. It was that simple. The one time that it worked, only thing I had to do was try. All I did was try. I read this suggestions and I'm like, let me try this. Let me see what they say. And guess what? I did all those things, and it's 13 years later, and I'm sitting here making this video for you. So it's crazy. And you know what? That was the experience. Here's the strength. You know, when I got clean, I did every single thing that the pamphlet said. You know, I went 0 to 100, chased my recovery like I chased my addiction, okay? Say 90 meetings in 90 days, I think I did 130. I did everything the suggestions say. And now I'm sitting here, okay? And I did everything. I got involved. I had like commitments, chairpersons, like I did all this stuff, treasury. And I'm like, people are trusting me with the meetings, money, and like door greeters, like all these things that kept me like in there, right? But as time went on, my life got busier and busier and fuller because I stayed clean and I stayed with that program. However, I just kind of like detached from the whole normal traditional way of doing things because, listen, it's great, but they're not helping people. They're helping people, but they're not. There's new drugs. There's new things going on. There's new medicine that's helping people. And like, there's like the NA and AA police. You go in AA, it's a bunch of old timers sitting around telling you like, oh, you're not this, you're not that. Like, that's pushing people away. How about let's meet them where they're at and be like, hey, listen, man, I know you're going through it. Like, here's what we did. Like, join us, you know, whatever they automatically think people are trying to like get one over. Like, yes, most people are, but you're not like signing a contract where you have to be there. You're there willingly. It doesn't matter if you're on some sort of meds or something that's helping you. You're there willingly. For the most part, some people are there like court ordered, but you're there willingly. And we need to be more welcoming of the newcomer and the person that comes in, right? So the people that I thought were like, wow, this guy got 20 years clean. Like, people look up to those numbers and stuff like that. Like, these people are living dirty as hell. And you know what? Finding more and more stuff out about people. Like, yes, the program works if you work it. Absolutely. Saved my life. Foundation of my recovery. Just some like shady stuff going on, man. And you know what? And the way people are living, you know, that's their decision. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes all the time. I make mistakes every single day. But thinking back to like the whole way it all works, rehab and NA, and like, it's just something's not right to me. And the numbers don't add up to me. That you go into a rehab facility and it tells you 3% of you are going to make it out of here. 3% of you are going to have better lives. 3% of you are going to make it. The rest of you guys, you're going to end up back in here dead or in jail. Like, that's what you're telling people. That's what you're telling addicts that just came off the street that have no hope in life. No hope. And they just ran for 10, 15 years. And now they're in a facility and they're kind of locked in there. If they leave, they're back out on the streets. And you're keeping these people in the chairs and you're telling them, hey, listen, only 3% of you is going to make it. What do you think? Automatically, boom. In an addict's head, they're like, all right, it's not going to be me. I got a reservation going on. I'm going to get out of here. So that's just the cycle. It's a revolving door. Some people make it back. Some people don't. And 3% is not okay. Listen, even if it went to 4%, 5%, I can do better with these numbers. And the way we do that is we treat people as individuals and meet them where they're at. Same way God will meet you right where you're at. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to do, because this is a really, really big issue. And it's getting worse by the day. Our cities, our neighborhoods, the homelessness, the addiction, the people falling out, the needles on the sidewalk. Like, this is Why is nobody doing anything about this? Why is no governors and state officials, and why are they not doing anything about this? They talk a good one and then do the opposite. That's what they do, okay? I'm here. I got a successful construction company. I do. 13 years clean. I got a great life, okay? Doing great. And I'm here in my free time. It's 8 o'clock at night. I got work in the morning, building this foundation and spreading my message and getting a message out to you that, don't matter where you're at in life. Don't matter. I was at rock bottom with nothing, not a pot to piss in, not a friend, nobody. Everybody hated me. Get that guy away from me. Went from the bottom to the top. And you can do that too. You can do that too. That's the whole point of this. I figured out, the things I'm doing with my life, addicts go 0 to 100. You get an addict clean and stay clean, 0 to 100. Sky's the limit for them, okay? So now, I'm one of the people that you would walk by in the street and look down on and all that stuff, right? And look at what I'm doing. I'm feeding people's families, employing people, starting charities. That's why I do this, because you are worth it. You are absolutely worth it. And, there is hope for you. Hope everyone has an amazing evening.